What's up, Kansas City? This is Carlos Nelson with Cascade Media Group. And today we have another one of our guests and on our business, the Kansas City Business Association show, Mr. Joe Reardon. He's the president. Do you have the claim of CEO also?
They put that in there too, Carlos. So yeah.
All right. Of the Greater Kansas City Chamber of Commerce. How you doing this afternoon, Joe?
Very good. Very good. You?
All right. As I tell the athletes and some of my hip coaches and politicians, you know the drill. So let's go back in the time machine and let our audience know a little bit about who Joe Reardon is. I want you to especially talk about some of the mentors that help you become who you are. Give them their, as I say, their props on the political and on the individual side as family and that type thing. Something separate from your career, teachers and things that, you grab hold of certain things that haven't left you.
Right. No, I've had an incredible journey, and my father was mayor of Kansas City, Kansas for 12 years when I was a little kid. And he died when he was 45 years old. So he died very young. And I never thought I'd get into politics. And lo and behold, in my adult life, I ended up running for mayor as well. And so I was mayor of the unified government for 8 years, born and raised in Kansas City, Kansas, downtown KCK, proud Bishop Ward High School grad. And then I went on to Rockhurst University and got my law degree at KU. But my time in Kansas City, Kansas, it means everything to me. I learned so much growing up in KCK. Learned so much from my dad and from him being in politics way back in the day. And I would say he's been the biggest influence on my life, even though he died when he was 45.
How about in the educational field? You said you went to those universities. I know I went to Central State University in Wilberforce, Ohio. I wasn't a good student for a long time. And the head of my department, I was in physical education, Dr. Lewis, and she was like 70 something then. She was a great influence on me coming from an urban core environment. I'm from New York. Showing me how to achieve. There was something, it still lives with me, and I'm 69.
Yep. I've had a lot of influences by way of education. I totally agree with that. As you say that to me, I think back to, I had an ethics professor named Sister Rosemary Flanagan, and she was an incredible influence on me. It's not all nuns, but since it's been kind of fun, another nun that taught me in undergrad is Sister Genevieve Robinson. And now I serve on the Donnelly College Board of Directors, and Sister Robinson's on that board as well. So those connections are pretty remarkable.
When you mention sisters to me, all I can remember is the paddle and the ruler on my hand for not listening.
Right.
Go ahead.
Well, both of these nuns were they were really unbelievably excellent, and they taught me at Rockhurst, and I'll never forget them and the influence they've had on me. It's been pretty incredible. And so, this Kansas City's a small place. So, I gave you that connection back to Sister Genevieve. And, in KCK, there was a person that knew my dad, and I got to work with her when I was mayor, Mary Ann Flunder, and she's since passed away. But her daughter, Thalia Cherry, runs Cherry.
My sister.
Yeah. So, these connections, we live in a big city, but it really is kind of a small town. And
it's really small when you, for you to say about Cherry's mother, she has become a dynamic businesswoman in the area. And the son, I met her when they used to have the NAIA tournaments here, and she would be down there every single year.
Yep.
And I got to know her, and she said, I think she sat on the board of regents.
That's right.
And so forth.
College. Yep.
And by me having a fashion channel on What's Up Kansas City, her granddaughter was on it. She was at Smith in Columbia in college.
Yep.
And that was my relationship started with her daughter, Thaler, because of the sports channel, and she provides a lot of uniforms and all of that.
I've got to tell you, the reason I brought this up is that Thalia is every year we award the Mr. K Award to the top small business in Kansas City, and we're down to 10, and Cherryco's one of the 10 finalists. So just in a couple of weeks, I don't know the outcome yet. In a couple of weeks,
The program is brought to you by the Kansas City Business Association.
you know, she's in contention for Small Business of the Year.
Let me say this. I've known her, and I have my differences on different things, but she's a hard worker. I watched that company over the last basically 2 years,
Yep.
maybe 3, take leaps and bounds. And I think they're on their road to success, as one would like to say.
I totally agree. Totally agree. Yeah.
So now, what made you, politics is so, what made you get into politics? Even though, I want my son to follow in my footsteps, but he's a real estate man. I'm doing this. What made you?
It really was just a passion for community. As a young lawyer, I got involved in some nonprofits and helping support them. And I felt like I could make a difference and make a difference for KCK, and ran for commission and was there for 2 years. And at the time, this is going way back, but Mayor Marinovich decided not to run for re-election. So it's an open seat. And I thought, I thought I had something to contribute. So, I spent 8 years doing it. I think I left.
What did you learn? There's 2 things I want to get out real quick. First of all, are you married and do you have kids? Then I want to know, what did you learn from your victories and your defeats in that office?
Sure. So yeah, I am married, happily married to my wife, Amy. We met at Rockhurst. She's originally from Wichita, but now in Kansas City and has been since she came up for college. And I have 2 boys. My oldest son is a junior in college at Fordham University in New York. And,
boy, that's where I took my SATs at when I was in '69 and Fordham.
Yep, he's up in the Bronx at the Rose Hill campus. And then my youngest son is a junior at Rockhurst High School. So 2 boys.
Does he play sports?
He's athletic, but not of the caliber to play at Rockhurst. So
all right, yeah, we just got finished interviewing Mark Nussbaum, and I got a call in to Campbell and them over there with the basketball team, bring them on our sports program.
Good,
so, go into the highs and the lows of those 8 years, and don't give me no bull.
Here's what I'll say. I took away from it. If I were to say one thing that I realized, and it took me a while to realize it, maybe I'll say it this way. So I got in there as a commissioner, and I thought I can't even remember what the idea is. I thought I had the best idea in the world, and I read around to other commissioners and said, I really think you ought to support this. And I got to one of my first meetings, and it comes up on the agenda, and it goes down in defeat. And I hadn't been that mad since I was in high school. I was so upset.
Went down in flames, or did it just go down?
Oh, it went down hard. And I came home, I was so mad. I remember talking to Amy about it. But what I realized over time is that relationships matter. That if we can build good relationships across every boundary, and we can, then when the tough moments come or when the decisions have to be made, then we can sit across from one another in a degree of trust and know that we can take a step. And it took me a long time to learn that, but it's very real. And I think in today's society, we don't spend enough time working on the relationships. We're always moving. It seems faster every day. And I know everybody's busy, myself included, but these relationships matter. And if you can build them, you will build trust, and trust is how you make things happen.
I don't think that that's a hard thing to do because of the environment we live in. And I'm not just talking about the racial environment.
Right.
I'm saying because I'm in media, I be dissecting this thing constantly. Yep. They have formatted everything in a soundbite, a text. You cannot solve complicated issues with, hey, I'll get back with you tomorrow, or it was nice talking to you. And the art of conversation is lost in America.
Yes, I agree.
You know, it's just like back in the day, writing letters and communicating every day, diary. That's my generation. Yep. And you had to communicate.
Yep.
And
that's
now
right.
it's missing. And I'm going to say this and then let you have your say. That's what I'm trying to use my network for. I'm like, I have a large digital following.
Yeah.
We're, no doubt about it, we're a Black network.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to reach out in sports. Like I asked Coach Holly and Nussbaum just got on Holly a few minutes ago. I want them to have their own show on Cascade Sports.
Awesome.
Because they bring a different audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just like you were brought up here, there's people that if you're doing something, they're going to look at. And the only way we're going to bridge this gap, this racial gap, this economic gap, this housing gap, is if we're talking to one another and really genuinely getting to know one another.
Yes.
Last thing, when I start doing these type interviews, these long hour-long interviews, these conversations, the talking heads all said, you can't do that. You got to make it short, quick, and to the point, or it's not. But now, you know what? This is it. Did you know Alex Harris?
Knew of Alex Harris, but
all right. So Alex just passed.
Okay.
All right. I got a hour-long interview with him from 7 years ago. That's what's playing and it's blowing up.
Yep.
Every time somebody dies in this area, I've already interviewed them and the news and everything. And so these have value, more value than just for right now. And they have value for your kids even. Could you imagine if you could see your great-grand or what have you when it was mayor? They have intrinsic value.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. Floor is yours.
Yeah, no, I could go 100 different ways with what you've just said, but I really believe in this forming relationships idea, and I don't think our culture really allows us the opportunities to do that. And I do think that part of our path forward in this Kansas City is building relationships of trust. And by the way, it's bridge building too. I mean, I represent an organization that's 138 years old. The origins of my organization are all white guys. No women were allowed, no minorities were allowed. And so to build trust, we have to confront what the past has been and then move forward beyond that. And that's a process. It doesn't happen overnight, right? We've got to do what we say we're going to do, and we've got to live up to expectations. But
timing is right now.
It is. I think what's really, if there's any out of the George Floyd murder and tragedy, if there's anything that's good that's come out of it, and Representative Cleaver said this, is that the protests we saw right after that were not just one race, it was every kind of people out. And I think that's felt like within my membership of the chamber. There are hearts and minds open in a different way right now. And I'm hopeful that will build the kinds of relationships that we need to build to overcome. And the reason that we need to do that is, number one, it's morally what we should do. But that's how Kansas City is going to grow. When we figure out how we get everyone engaged, really engaged.
What? Cut you off a minute, because you hit a key subject, and it had been thorny, because this some kind of way I bring this up in the interviews. usually at the end of the interviews, that moral. You said morally. All right. I feel that I will say I think that for us to achieve the goals that you just expounded on, that we need to stop and press the reset button and look in the mirror and look at our conscience, our morals, look at reassess ourselves, not who we are right now, who we wanted to be. And we all know where we made that wrong turn and get back on the right track. Now, as it relates to your all-white organization and what have you, because I talk black and white, most white people will say, I wasn't part of the slavery deal. And my answer to them is what you just was proposing. No, you didn't have anything to do with that per se, but you're benefiting, and you know you're benefiting, and you're not looking in the mirror and being right with that. And unless we can have that conversation, Black people and people of color have really no power in the economic to pull any levers. So it's going to take the majority community to work it out. And it's going to take people like you, and as I said, like Coach Holly and Coach Nussbaum reaching across the aisle. I don't know where we got to this point, because I come up with Kennedy and all of them. They all used to bang heads, but they could reach across the aisle and come to some type of compromise. I never loved compromise. But as I got older, I understood and then understood politics. You have to have compromise. But now, how are you reading things?
Well, I mean, we know what it looks like when you can't figure out how to find common ground. That's called Congress. Nothing happens in Congress, and it's true. And there's a lot of people of goodwill there, but there's not enough finding common ground. And you could bring Congressman Cleaver on here; he'll talk about it. He's part of the Civility Caucus as well, and just trying to figure that out. It's
coming on next week, by the way.
Oh, good. So in any event, I don't want that to happen in our Kansas City. Now, we can have disagreements, and we ought to vigorously defend our positions, and that's all part of a process. But at the end of the day, people of goodwill have got to say, okay, what can we take of this and move it forward and show some progress? Because if we lock up, we're not going to get anywhere.
How does the chamber look at that airport?
We think it's an essential piece of Kansas City in our economy going forward. It's going to be essential for business. We want to make sure. I think this is me personally as a former mayor, and I hear the stats came out yesterday. Getting minority and women-owned businesses into and workers involved in the largest construction project in the city's history is extremely important, and I'm hopeful that what we're hearing is going to lead to that place. That's really important. So
I try to be as positive as I can. I think I told you at one time I used to own the second or third largest Black construction company in Kansas City. It all goes with that race issues. Things just have got to change. And the last I had on it is when I think I had Bunch on and a couple of the white councilmen north of the river, and we were talking about it. And then I think I had the last one, I had Lee Barnes on, and nothing had happened. But then yesterday or day before yesterday, something came out about that they had all these minorities now signed up.
Right.
Trying not to come down on them, because what was being said for the last month and a half, that there was a Black contractor that came, should have got the contract, and then they gave it to somebody else, and that Black contractor had all these other Black contractors, and this other one didn't. But I'm glad something has been.
Look, we've got to monitor all that closely to make sure the outcome's right and true. But I'm sort of putting on two different hats here, but I will say, and I have to give credit to one of my colleagues, but when I was mayor in KCK, Nathan Barnes was on the council, and he came to me. I'll confess to you, I didn't know much about MBE, WBE, but come to find out that the city of Kansas City, Kansas had no program, had never had. So we got to work on that. We did the disparity study, we put it in place, but it's very important in our communities that when we do contracting and do business, that we're trying to engage the whole community, including the minority community. That's how you make an economy work.
Do you have any special programs, or how is the chamber trying to work with minority businesses per se? When I was involved with all that crap years ago, and I'm talking about 20 years ago, the chambers basically represented businesses like Cherry, small businesses like the ones that's in my KCBA. I got some big businesses in the Kansas City Business Association, but businesses that have one foot in business and one foot going out of business.
Yeah.
Is there, what are you doing down there to try to bring them into the fold?
So there's a lot that's going on, but let me highlight one, because I could talk about, big thinking, but I want to get right down to something very specific. So a little over a year ago, we started a conversation with an organization. I don't know Carlos, if you've had them on, but the Prospect Business Association.
I started the Prospect Business Association back in, probably in the 80s. It was myself, Henry Lyons, Bernard. Yep. He had Ben's Supermarket on the corner, and another guy. I think he was from Copenhagen. He had a body shop down there off of 35th and Prospect, and Big D's Liquor was. I started that back in the day. Henry kept the corporate papers, and it was revived probably 5 years ago with the help of my friend Drew Solomon over at EDC.
Yep, and so we've been working with Don Maxwell and those guys, and Simone Curls is the executive director now.
Right. Karen's daughter.
It's just so. Anyways, here's what we're trying to do. We formed a partnership with them so that if you're a member of PBA, you can get access to what the chamber's doing. And then we want to make sure that we're with PBA talking about the opportunities we might be able to do together. So we're really trying to form a tight alliance. And the reason we want to come at it this way is organizations like the PBA and the Black Chamber, they're very important. And so we always want to be in partnership, not in competition, so to speak. And that's why these partnerships and alliances are so important. And I'll give you an example of how this has made a difference for us. So after George Floyd's murder, our chamber wanted to do something. What can we do? And one of the things we felt we had to do is to make sure that our members across the region understood what the Black experience was like in Kansas City, both today from a business perspective, historically, young people. And so we reached out to PBA and we asked for their help in it. And they helped us put together an amazing series of what we called listening sessions. There were 6 of them. And we had help from the Urban League as well, another one of our good partners, as well as others. And this is what I mean. I think people's minds are in a different place. In those virtual convenings that we had, this was in late June and July, we had 300, 400, 500 people that came in and watched those virtual convenings. And they're on our website at kcchamber.com.
Tell them what your website is.
kcchamber.com, and you can go to any of these. And then every year we have what's called the Power of Diversity Breakfast, but we changed it a little bit this year, and it was virtual. And we just focused on the issues of race in Kansas City, and Congressman Cleaver was our keynote speaker. And Carlos, we had 1,700 people that came into that event. 1,700, it's the largest.
So tell me this, how much interaction do you have with that downtown council and these Kansas City fathers, basically, the power brokers? How much, because I think they sloughed on their fiduciary responsibilities for years. But when I had talked to the last interview I did with Crosby, he said that they were picking that up. They were getting themselves together. Because I was like, if we have a sick Black community, how can all of Kansas City be healthy?
You can't. You can't. And here's what I'll say, Carlos. The cities that figure out how to address that issue will be the ones that emerge from COVID and are highly successful. Those that can't figure it out, we see the consequences of this in our cities across the country. We cannot find it to be acceptable to have sizable numbers of our own citizens that are disconnected from economic opportunity. And that's what's happened.
And disconnected from the internet, because that's the opportunity in my community. My kids can't do their homework, can't get a hold of Google.
And how can we expect that child to succeed if we haven't set them on the same course that a child that is going to Rockhurst, like my son,
right,
being set on? That we can't accept that. It is no longer acceptable to have that. So I give big kudos to Superintendent Bedell.
I got Bedell getting ready to. All right, I'm working with Dr. Brandon Martin over at UMKC.
Yep.
And he asked me to set this meeting up with Bedell that I called yesterday on getting more of the urban core and these kids that are juniors and seniors to get over to UMKC and get an education when they come out.
Yep.
And so we want to talk about that. And that's what I'm trying to do, bridge that gap with everyone that we're coming in contact with so that we can make a better place for our kids and for ourselves.
So I'll say something positive about our chamber. 2 years ago, our chamber brought Dr. Bedell on as one of our chamber board members. And someone told me that they can't even remember in the past history that when the superintendent of Kansas City, Missouri Public Schools was a board member on our chamber. So that's not by accident. This business community has to get behind Dr. Bedell and Kansas City Public Schools, because that's what a business community should do. And that's how you are successful as a whole city. And so I think, we regrettably, the chamber hasn't always been a great partner with Kansas City Public Schools. That's just the truth.
But we have to go forward. This is what I had to learn. Because when I lost my construction company, I had a pizza restaurant. I was kind of bitter and stuff. But like you said, your defeat, when you talked about, you got to move forward. That's yesterday. We can't
That's right.
do nothing about that. But
That's
what
right.
we can do, we can move forward and see how we can come together and make things better.
Yep, absolutely right.
And I consider myself a warrior on the front line, but it's a time to be at war, and it's a time to be at peace, and it's a time for negotiations. And
yes.
I think right now it's not a time to be at war.
I think I appreciate the protests and the vigor and that is within that. And now it's up to us, people of goodwill, to figure out how you make change, and that's hard. And we've got to do it. And I think that I think we can. I think people of goodwill coming together can make it happen.
What do you think? I don't mean to put you on the hot seat. And it might not be the hot seat for you. What do you think about the mayor? Just asking candid questions really can be difficult in the atmosphere.
Well, maybe my perspective will be a little different than others. Look, I've been a mayor. I can't imagine being the mayor of Kansas City, Missouri right now. COVID-19, the racial issues, these are really tough, complex things, and there are no easy paths or solutions. So I would say we need to lift the mayor up a little bit. He is facing unbelievable times, and I think he's doing a good job. Now, are we hitting the mark on everything? Probably not. But I just give him great kudos for doing what he's doing. Believe me, Carlos, this is hard stuff, and there's no easy answers, and there's passionate people on all kinds of sides. And you would think something like, I'm going to put together something that says everybody wear a mask, and oh my God, all of a sudden you've got people that are getting a petition together to get you recalled. I mean,
I think that's and this is why I have my show, and I'll be saying, don't give me no baloney, because when people come to any of our shows, they know it's not fake news.
Right.
And it's so much that Northland, it's so much noise in the air that you don't know what to believe. I got a show getting ready to debut with some college kids, and it's all about, can you believe the government? Can you believe your school? Can you believe anything that is being said in the world right now?
And I'll go back to what I said earlier. When we erode trust and it doesn't exist, we aren't capable of moving forward. And I'm worried about that on all kinds of levels. But let me get back to the mayor for one more second. The chamber was proud to stand behind the mayor as he made difficult decisions around public health, in closing down business, then putting the masks and the things that we stood behind the mayor on that. We thought that was the right thing to do. And those were not easy times for him. And again, having sat, my city's a third of the size of Kansas City, Missouri when I was mayor, but I know how difficult those moments can be.
Well, I questioned him on when this thing first started. I felt he had done so many interviews with me, like in a month and a half. I think he did 3 interviews. My feeling was he just was bowing down to the masters in the federal and the state government. If it was his druthers, we'd have been in mass basically until all of this stuff cleared up. And Kansas City would have probably been one of the leading cities in the country with the lowest rate. I believe that.
Yep. I hope there's a time when the mayor can have a vacation and disconnect, and because he's nonstop. He's going 24 hours.
He's everywhere. I call him Clark Kent. I'm saying but one thing that I am super proud of, that he's young and he understands the platforms and the tools that are out here to reach your constituents and grow your audience.
Yep. He's doing a great job of that, reaching out.
All right. And in closing, because I'm going to work with you on some things. Hopefully, the Chamber can have their own show on our network. The Chamber of Commerce Presents. And you have somebody that you bring on, you do it, or one of your staff, because I'll show you some things when we get off the interview.
Yeah.
Do you have any closing comments, Joe?
Sure. I could say a lot, but let me just say
all it. All day.
Our business community, I'm proud of it. I'm proud of the organization I represent. We realize that there's work to be done, but this business community will stand with a voice on important issues. But all the time, we will try to work to make sure we're finding where we can come together. What can we do to bring people together to move forward? Because I believe even we're in a polarized place right now, but I'm very hopeful after the elections in November, we're going to understand in Kansas City that in order to make really good change and lasting change, we got to find out how to do that together. And we want to be the kind of organization that can bring all kinds of different people together in common cause to make this city better, to make it the outcomes for our fellow residents better than they are today. Because when we do that, that's when business succeeds. And when we do that, that's when the city will grow. And when we do that, we can emerge from COVID in a different world, but one where Kansas City is on a trajectory of positive momentum.
Now I want you to go into my Black Power moment.
Okay.
Give a pitch to my Black entrepreneurs in the city.
The Chamber wants to help you. We've not been there in the past, but we want to engage with you. We know that the key to Kansas City's future growth is making sure that the opportunities for you as a Black entrepreneur are opened wide, because when you succeed, that lifts the city up. That's how jobs are created. That's how opportunities created. That's how authentic growth occurs in places that it hasn't for far too long. And we want to be a part of that. We're not all the part of it. We want to be your partner. We're not going to solve all the problems, but we want to be a collaborator with you to find out how to deal with the obstacles that you're dealing with, whether it's access to capital or access to customers. Please bring us to the table. We want to help.
Excellent. And as we always say, when you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself.
Exactly right.
Good day.
This program was brought to you by DeCapo's Cookies. Support your local bakers.